Hi.
Good morning. It is Trish. I am here with Hip Homeschool Moms. We're on the Mentoring Mom Show, and we have with us, we have Dorinda Wilson. Hey, Dorinda, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dorinda Wilson, and I have the blog A Simple Nourishing Home, and I'm just happy to be here this morning.
Yay. And we have Heidi. Introduce yourself, Heidi.
Morning, everybody. Heidi Sarawola here. I blog at startsatate.com, and it's been a busy time around here getting ready to start school in about a week and a half.
And here's Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Poor thing, she just jumped in, so hey. Introduce yourself.
Just jumped in. I'm Lisa from the PenningtonPoint.com, and I've been doing school this morning and trying to so already started.
Balance everything. Yeah, there you go. There you go. The life of a homeschooler, right? Okay. So just curious before we start, how many have started? So Lisa, you've started back. Heidi, have you started back yet? You said next week, right?
We start
Dorinda,
the 8th.
You started?
We start the 8th of September.
Okay.
No, we dabble through the summer and really honestly don't get started till probably late September because of lots of gardening stuff that comes in, and we kind of have to focus on that. So
I saw one of your pictures, Dorinda, of you guys doing all that gardening and dealing with your vegetables. It's so cool.
I had those kids working yesterday. They weren't all very happy to start with, but yeah, by the time they were done, they were good, and it got so much done. It was great. So they did a good job.
Yay. Real life. That's homeschooling too. That's homeschooling too.
Oh yeah.
I have allergies, and so I'll just give you a heads up. I apologize already. Hopefully I won't sneeze, but my voice is going to go in and out, so I'll just give you a heads up on that. So a lot of homeschool moms have started back. Not only have they started back, but some have been back for, weeks and weeks now. So we've got some interesting questions. Let's see what we've got. I'll start with this one. Okay, it says, what preparation do you do for ACTs and SATs? What's your personal experience on college transcripts and the homeschool child? And I have no experience there, so that's y'all, Dorinda and Lisa. Heidi, you got any experience there? I don't think you do either, do you?
We're just rolling into that. In fact, my daughter will be taking her PSATs in October, so we're just starting to roll into all of that.
Okay, so Dorinda, Lisa.
Well, I have one in college. He's going to be a senior this year. I'm trying to think back because he started a few years ago. I think because of the way that we do homeschooling, where by the time they're in high school, I'm given some guidance, but basically it's their deal, and they have to make the efforts and they have to meet the goals. And he wanted to go to college, so he made sure he got his SATs taken and prepped for him, and he did it all. So I can't say that I held his hand through all of that and even really am completely familiar with the process because I really put it in his lap and he did great. And, so I'm probably not a super great person to ask that question. But I do, as far as the transcripts and all that, our kids are in a parent partnership program. And so they do most of their schooling at home, but they take some classes there, and so they deal with their transcripts and stuff, which is nice. I mean, I'm part of the process, but they pretty much keep all the records, and so that's worked well for us. So.
And I know, Lisa, you are a lot like Dorinda. You encourage them to do that as well. So do you have any experience to share on that?
Not really. I mean, my kids, like Dorinda, if they want to go to college, they take that on themselves, and we just help. I mean, I'll drive them around and make calls and, and help them whatever, but I don't really do the research. Sorry.
I can tell you what little I have done, and I'm sure Heidi's done a little bit too. She just mentioned PSATs. PSATs are the pre-SAT test, and I think that a lot of early high school students are starting to do the PSATs just to get, especially if your children are not test takers like mine. We don't even administer tests. Right, 90% of the time. So it's almost like a life skill we're teaching them more than anything. So that's why we we're encouraging them to do the PSATs. So we're going to be doing it too this year, Heidi. So, and then there's another one. What's the one that's for the ACT? There's a prep test for the ACT, and I can't remember the name of it, but we'll find out, and we'll put that on the information for mentoring moms in our group. But there are some prep tests out there. There's some books you can buy. Did anybody ever do that? Did y'all
I
ever
do.
use?
I do, and
Yeah.
I also have a whole Pinterest board dedicated to the SATs and ACTs. So
Oh, good.
I have lots of sites and information and study tips and all that kind of stuff that I have in a Pinterest board.
Can you share that on our mentoring
Yeah,
moms post on our
yeah,
group?
yeah. I'll find it and pull it up for you and put the link in. So I have a lot of resources there. And my daughter, like I said, she's taking the PSATs in October. I bought books for her. She likes to have something physically in hand, and she's also taking her first CLEP exam a week from Thursday. I think it's a week from Thursday, and she preferred having, she did some online drilling type of stuff, but she actually had a CLEP book that she did practice exams in, and that's how she studied for her CLEP. And the same goes for the PSAT. We have like a PSAT study book and a PSAT like old exams type of book, questions types of books, and she will use those to study for her PSAT coming up in October.
Cool. Well, hopefully that helped. I know I've got to do some research on it. You're further down the path than I am, so okay. Some random questions, but I guess we have a lot of new homeschoolers, so the questions are going to bounce around, y'all, so I apologize for that. So I'm just going to jump in. How do you know what subjects are required? So really that's it depends on the grade, it depends on the state. There's so many different variables that go into that. We usually refer everybody to hslda.org to go see what your state requirements are. So there's really not a lot we can help with that one, so we'll move on. This is a good question. How much in the line of curriculum is too much for a child? That's a great question. So how do y'all know that? I mean, I'm not really good at judging that, at saying, oh, it looks like you're overloaded. Lisa, when they're overloaded, what do you see? What's there that you go, whoa, that's too much?
Yeah. I'm really careful not to overload them. And one of the things I think is different about homeschooling, so you might say, okay, in public school they're taking science and history and math and geography and all the other reading and English and all these other subjects. Well, there's a difference between what they're learning in an English class at my house and what they would learn. We are way more intense into it. We talk a lot more about it. We bring Bible into it. We do all kinds of other things with it, and we get very into it. It's more of a learning and putting it in your heart and putting it in your mind and becoming part of your mind. And so it's such a deeper level of learning that I don't feel like it's too much. And so we try to, like right now, we're kind of in the process. I have a bunch of things I want them to do, and we're in the process of figuring out if it'll work or not, or if they can handle it. So for about 2 weeks, we kind of try to do a lot of it and see if they're able to keep up with the load of what they're having to do on their own. And if they're not, then we kind of pull some of it back, or we change it, or so you have to kind of play with it a little bit and see if your child is keeping.
Mm-hmm. And I think that scares a lot of homeschool moms, the thought of the trial and error.
Very well. If they seem like they're able.
Go ahead, Lisa. Yeah. I'm sorry. We thought we lost you.
Oh, sorry. Did you hear me?
I don't know. Could y'all hear her?
Not that last part, no.
No, we lost you for the last part. The part where, the very last about a half a minute maybe.
Well, I would just want you to be released from feeling like you have to do exactly what the public school is doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your wrap up was what we missed. So.
And realize you're learning it more intensely. And they're getting more information out of the classes from you than they'd be getting from school. Because the purpose for me, like you talked about test taking a minute ago, the
Mhm.
purpose at our house is never to pass a test. It's to learn the information. And so we spend more time in it, we get deeper into it. And so maybe they can't take as much as they can do in public school, but they're learning it better.
Right.
I
They're
agree.
absorbing it.
Mhm. Dorinda, what do you do?
I think it's one of those things that over the years, you can't get away from trial and error with homeschooling. So you may as well just embrace it and go with it because that's just part of the deal. And just tuning into your own kids because every child is so different. Each one can handle more or less of something, and you just really have to be tuned into your kids and what are the little signals that they give you that say this is too much, like crying.
Yeah.
For some kids, crying is a way to try to get out of the schoolwork. For others, it truly is they are completely overloaded. And as a mom, generally, I think we have a pretty good feel for that. And I agree with Lisa. A lot of how we teach is just so much a part of everyday life that we haven't done lots and lots of. We do curriculum on a regular basis in the basic subjects, but certainly not loads and loads of it and multiple facets other than what we're doing in everyday life and in our, just our talking to each other and our discussions and things like that. And an example of that would be when our son went in to do his entrance exams for college, and I've told this story before, but maybe people haven't heard it, but he went in, and I was concerned about the language one because he hated doing language. He hated doing language curriculum. He just didn't like it, and I'd have to force him to do the smallest amount, okay? So now this kid is like, what, a junior in high school. He's doing the running start thing. He wants to go to college. So he goes in, he takes the entrance exam, and he, aces the language one. And I'm like, what? How did that happen? And he said to me, because I know the entrance exams aren't, hardcore testing or anything, but they do give a general feel for how much does this kid know about, the English language or whatever, proper use, grammar, punctuation, all that. Well, apparently having read a lot, and usually he was reading technical books like computer programming books and things like that those were his books of interest. Between the reading and then just speaking good English at home, that's all he needed. He was able to do fine on the entrance exam. And so and I was actually talking to him about that, going, what, how did that happen? And he told me all of that. He said, Mom, we speak good English at home, and it was just natural. I knew what sounded right and what didn't sound right, and that kind of thing. So, so there's so much more absorbed, I think, in everyday life than we realize. And we're always teaching. We're just not standing in front of them doing it like, maybe a public school teacher would. We're just doing it in everyday life as we walk alongside of each other, and that's the beauty of homeschooling.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Heidi, how about you? I know for me, my kids, I think boys are different anyway, so I'm going to reserve mine because I think I have a unique set of, having all boys. I don't think I have a fair assessment going on. So how do you deal with it? How do you assess when they're overloaded? And you got younger students too.
I do. Well, Chloe's going to be a sophomore in high school this year, and then I have 6th grade and 3rd grade. And I didn't do a lot when the kids were younger and everybody knows, I'm super type A, super structured, that's just my personality. And especially with my little one who's 3rd grade now, she was much more, and I've been much more unschooly with her than I was with any of the other ones. And so we just, when they were younger, even when my older two were younger, we didn't do things quite as structured. We played a lot more games. When they're little and you're learning the alphabet and learning how to read, and there's a lot more fun, easy, kind of flowy things you can do with that. And so when they were younger, I didn't do as much. And now my little one's going to be in 3rd grade, and this year is the most structured I've been with her, and she will have her assignment sheet just like the other kids do. And for her, I haven't found that she's been overloaded. With my teenager, I absolutely saw it. I saw it early on, probably fourth grade, I want to
What were
say.
the signs? What did you
Um,
see?
the crying, for sure.
Yeah, that was a dead giveaway. Come on.
Yeah.
But if we get to a point, and we've even gotten to this point, I think probably almost every year with my teenager, I just think there's certain times of the year that aren't as great as others, but we get to a point where we're getting to the end of our days, and consistently to the end of our days, to the end of our weeks, and the assignment sheets aren't done. Like, what we had set out to accomplish has not been accomplished. And so even if she's not necessarily showing signs of stress or frustration with that, I do. And so for me, it's not it's a reevaluation. And okay, do we really have too much on our plates, or are we struggling in something, or are we wasting time? And we did find that she fell into a very big trap of just wasting time, kind of marking time, not really focusing. And so, for me, because I use an assignment sheet during our actual school, like more formal school months,
Mm-hmm.
and I plan out what the plan is for the week. When we get to the end of the week, I know, okay, well, we've either, accomplished what we set out to, or we haven't, and why was that? And then, we reevaluate. I've taken things out of, completely, and been like, okay, this is just, we're not going to do this. This is too much. So I've taken subjects, electives, whatever. I've taken units out, whatever it may
Mm-hmm.
be, and just said, okay, this is too much. But with my teenager, she gets more and more agitated and irritated, and you can see that in her, and you see it in her lack of kind of want to do at a certain
Mm-hmm.
point. When it gets to be too much, it's kind of like a throw your hands up. Why am I bothering? This is too much. I'm never going to get to this kind of thing. And so when it comes to using curriculum, like I said, I use curriculum. I know some of us don't, but when it comes to using curriculum and knowing whether it's too much, like I said, my number one indicator is that we've gotten to a certain point, and we haven't accomplished what we had supposedly set out to accomplish. Number two is the way that the kids act. They each act in their own different way when it comes to feeling like they have too much. But your kids, what's
Exactly.
normal for them. If they're acting differently, if they're acting stressed, frustrated, aloof, uninterested, and that's not normal for them, that can also be an indication that there's something going on. And
Yeah.
So those are the
I
things
agree.
that I look for.
I totally agree. And one thing that I wanted to say too is I think one thing that's really important for us as homeschooling moms is to remember some of the developmental stages of our kids. There's curriculum that's appropriate for a child who can logically reason something out to the end, like when they start to get into the teen years. It isn't practical. It isn't even useful when they're 6, 7, and 8 years old. And so I think having some sort of idea of developmentally where your kids are at, and of course that vacillates, but it's kind of similar. And so just kind of maybe having that knowledge of what can a 5-year-old handle typically, and not to
Right.
put them in a box, but just to be familiar with things like this. I always found this very interesting that before about, I think it's around 8 years old, I think it could be a little older or younger for some, but they don't understand that when they see something on a screen, on the TV or whatever, that's not real. They can't grasp that concept. And knowing that really changed what I let my kids watch on TV and stuff, because they could not knowing that they couldn't differentiate between reality and fantasy was almost kind of scary, but
Yeah.
it's a fact. And so I needed to take that and use that to make good decisions for what I was going to let my kids see and not see. So I think just that whole developmental thing is really important to pay attention to. And I think you can find stuff online, or just a general overview of, where they are developmentally, and just kind of pick things that are appropriate, age appropriate.
Well, for me, I had a little bit of a different situation. My oldest is one that will just try to plug through, just keep going, just roll through it. And with him, he doesn't complain. He's not a complainer. He'll just do it. Poor
Right.
thing. And,
Right.
so
Right.
last year, Lisa Pennington, after going to 2-to-1, she gave me some real world advice there that really I brought home and implemented. I did, Lisa. A lot of what I did. I came home and I was like, okay, something that Lisa reminded me of last year at 2-to-1 was that something that I had already had in my head, and I don't know why I had it in my head, but there was just this, this is how you do things. This is the age. They're in this grade. This is the proper process of how things are supposed to go. So, I had them doing all this stuff that anyway, to make a long story short, we shortened our work schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And so we work now, we have about a 4.5 hour, maybe 5 hour, depending on the day, workload, even in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I have just said, what they don't get done today, they'll do tomorrow. And
Right.
I've just let that go. I'm not gonna stress about it. And so Lisa was a big part of me changing mine around, and it was a blessing for my oldest one because, like I said, he would just keep trying. Bless his heart.
Yeah. One other thing I was thinking about too, Trish, is I've got 8 kids and they're all so very different. But one thing that has just sort of that I've discovered over the years is that I have a style of teaching that I do too. So to consider, and I think Heidi kind of touched on this a little bit, not just how they're doing, but how are you doing with being able to keep up with what they're doing and check what they're doing, and are you kind of feeling burned out? And so, we do need to factor ourselves into the equation as well, because, we have to kind of pace ourselves. We're sort of need to do that. So just to think about that too. I thought that was really good, Heidi, that you mentioned that, because that's a huge part of it too.
I agree. So there's so I guess what it boils down to is you're gonna have to do a lot of trial and error, and you're going to have to know your child, and you're gonna have to watch for the signs, and each child's signs are different. So I don't know if we answered it well, but I think we answered it pretty effectively. So hopefully she got out of it what she needed to. Okay, so next one is, this is an interesting question. Do you try to put something fun into each day? She said her 10-year-old wants to know what fun things we're doing today. She says, I always say recess. So, I know. So, unfortunately, school isn't always fun. There are some days you just have to plug through. So how do you deal with that? Do y'all do something fun every single day? Because if y'all do, I am so in trouble. So, anybody, Lisa, do you do something fun every day?
Absolutely. I think.
Oh, you do not.
It should. What? Of course.
Do you really? What do you do? Tell us what you do. Give us the secret. I think she logged up on us again.
I would rather have fun just like them.
Man.
Well, I think school. I think all of it is fun. But can you hear me?
No, we can.
Okay. I think that we try to make everything fun. We turn stuff into art projects. We turn stuff into going outside. We stop and run around in the middle of it. We do all kinds of little breaks. Yeah, we have.
Her internet today is really rough.
It is. Yeah. Well, and I think you have to define fun,
That's true.
like Lisa mentioned crafts. I'm sorry, that is not fun to me. That would be torture to me. So
it is for me too. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
So, and I think it's important. I think what her child is asking is there going to be a carrot at the end of my hard work? When I'm finished, am I going to get some sort of reward? And I think rewards are important. They don't have to be pie in the sky, big deal, expensive, whatever. Just whatever that child might enjoy. In fact, I think asking them, well, what do you think is fun? And make a list of the things they think are fun. And when they've done a certain amount of work, okay, pick something off that list and go do it. So
Oh, that's a
that's
good
how
point
we
too.
do it
You,
too.
you just said something. It doesn't necessarily have to involve mom. It can be an independent fun
Right.
work.
Absolutely. I think a
Yeah,
break from each other can be good.
that's
So
right. That's right.
healthy.
Do y'all do something fun every day, Heidi? Because I don't.
No, I am mean, rotten, and miserable. There is no fun in this house ever. None. No fun.
Oh, okay, so see, there are some folks that you're
Not
just
to
like
say
me.
no. How about this? I don't sit there and plan in I'm not planning going, okay, what fantastic, awesome thing are we going to do today? No, not on a daily basis. Do we do, like, I like Dorinda's term, pie in the sky. We don't do something like pie in the sky fun every day, but my kids like, like my son just lives to play video games. So if he can,
Yep.
do his schoolwork and get his chores done and whatever, and he can get some video game time, then that's fun for him.
Right.
My little one, fun for her. She wants to play game with mommy. We'll play. We'll do some stuff, and then we'll play Guess Who, or we'll play Skippo or Recco, or that's fun for her. For my teenager, she just wants to freaking have her nose in her phone. Give me my phone. Come on.
And
So,
you're everybody else.
so
That's right.
everybody's fun, is very different. So when you're talking about little, small things, the
Well,
not
this
pie
is
in
the
the sky
10-year-old.
things.
This is the
Yeah.
10-year-old.
So 10, I mean, I have an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old, and like my 11-year-old son is, he wants to play his video games. That's what's fun to him. Unless there's, it's like now, there's friends to play with and such. So then it's,
Right.
let's go outside, let's go to a friend's house. But during the school year when, his friends are in school and that, he wants to get on his video games so for my 8 to 10-year-old range, 12-year-old range, everybody's fun is different. But I like Dorinda's term pie in the sky. I don't do anything pie in the sky. My 8-year-old loves to work with pastels. Thank you, Trisha Hodges, for all the pastel tutorials and things that she does. My little one thinks that's fun. She will ask just to get out paper and get out the pastels and do something.
Yeah.
So I guess to her, if I'm letting her do that day, then yeah, I've done something fun that day. Like Dorinda said, I wouldn't find that fun. That isn't fun for me, but it's fun for her. So I don't set out going, okay, we're going to do something fun, because my goal is not necessarily fun. I am that hard-nosed. Life is not always fun. Everything you do isn't going to be fun. When you get a job in the real world, you're not going to like everything you have to do. That's just the way it is. So I'm I'm the Grinch. I'm the Grinch of homeschooling.
You are not.
Well, I can't today, ladies. So sorry.
She's
Well, I'm sure
northern.
there are moms out there who can relate to you. So
That's
it's
right.
perfect, And I just think that, if the kids make the list, that's what I like.
That's
is
what
that
I
I
was
do like that.
exactly
these
thinking
were your
the
fun
whole
ideas.
time.
So
Mm-hmm.
The whole time she was talking, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, well, if there's a break after school, that they get to go and do their thing
right.
for however long, based on their attitude and their accomplishments during the day, during the school day, they've earned, X, Y, Z, then yeah, they do get to go do something
Well,
fun.
and
So
I
I think
actually
that's a
have
great point.
We
For
actually
me,
have an old plastic like sour cream container, and this was years ago. We still have it, but we haven't really used it, where we made little tiny slips of paper with a fun but somewhat, to me, educational or learning, was like,
productive.
something productive, not just sitting in front of the video, the
Right.
video game or whatever. And
Right.
so, the kids and I made, we made a list together, and then we cut out the little strips and put them in the sour cream container. And so, if they wanted a break from, the formal schooling, and be like, okay,
Right.
you've done such
Yes.
and such, go pick something out of this, and they would, go do it. And like I said, we haven't used it as much recently, but that was something we did as well. And I do love the idea of having the kids make a list of things that would be fun for them, things to choose from, then that, the not
Right.
pie in the sky kind of stuff they can do, at home. I think that's a great idea.
Well,
That's my doorbell.
I think
There went
some
Heidi.
That's hilarious. The dog
Real
took her
life.
out.
Real life.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I want to mention too is, 5 of our 8 kids are boys. And so waiting until they're done with everything to give them a little reward doesn't always work.
Always work. That's
Especially the younger they are, their attention span isn't as long. So I'll tell, our 8-year-old, when you're finished with math, then you can go and do, this, that, or the other thing. And the other thing that I like about making the list together is that I can nix the things that I don't think are necessarily something I
good.
want on the list, because, Heidi mentioned productivity, and not every single thing has to be productive, but I think most things should be, because we are teaching our kids, to make good use of their time every day. And so, so if we're kind of helping them, make the list, and we're just not writing down the things that we don't think are maybe appropriate, or maybe we don't want them playing video games after math. We want them to wait until they're done with everything. So that's that's up to us as moms to decide that. But giving them a little bit of say in what the fun things that they want to do is, I think, helpful, because they get more excited about it.
I agree.
Oh, she's
I
back.
agree.
How's the dog, Heidi?
Doorbell thing.
The doorbell. Some guy pushing his financial advisor services.
Uh-oh, he came to the wrong house.
I was like, there's no money to financially advise, so sorry.
There's nothing here to work
That's
with.
right. Sorry.
Oh, too funny. Well, when we were just talking about that last thought, Dorinda, you led right into this next question, so I'm going to add it. And it looks like Lisa has been really struggling with her internet today, and she is popping in and out. So if y'all see her down there, she's back. If she's not, then you know that her internet's struggling. So she may be here, she may not be here. Okay, the next question is agenda organizer recommendations for tweens, and I think not. I don't necessarily think we should answer this from a specific product perspective. I think we need to help them think through the various ways that we can help them stay on track more than just a product. You know what I mean? So for me and my tweens, we did a calendar, for their daily activities, and then I did a to-do list, a check-off list that they have to check off every single day that has not only their schoolwork but also their chores on it. And so once they check that all off, then they know that they're free for the day. And each child's different, so one may be done in 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours, depending on the day. And and then they're free to go after they give it to me, and I'll look at it. So I make sure it's all done. How about y'all? How do y'all deal with your tweens trying to keep them on track?
It's funny, we were talking before we went live about a post I had go viral. This is one, I wrote a post called Time Management for Teens, and this is one post that is very popular. People, it's definitely a high hit topic. With my kids, I do something similar, and I started in like 7th grade with mine, trying to make them more independent. Take more ownership of their learning. Of what they want to learn. How they want to go about it, how they want to structure their days. And last year with my daughter being a freshman in high school, I switched all of that over to her, and I use something called Homeschool Tracker, and that's where I input all my lesson plans, and I print out assignment sheets. So normally I would do the bulk of that. I would do the assignment sheets. Here's what you're doing. But in this case with my freshman, I gave her a paper planner, and I handed her the paper planner, and I had made a list of all of the things that she needed to cover, say, in a week, as far as academically. Like, you need to do math 3 times a week. You need to do, Latin roots. You need to do at least, 3 of them a week, whatever. So I made her a list. And so then I left that with her, and it was in her hands to decide how she was going to plan out her days, what she was going to do on what days. And so she was accountable to that list. And we told her that if you get to Friday and you haven't completed your work, then, well, you can kiss your weekend goodbye, and you have work to do.
You're such a Grinch.
Now, like I said, we did have issues with that, and we did scale back things and change things because it did become evident that it was too much, and there were times when she just was not focusing as well as she should, and we dealt with those things throughout the year. But as far as making, like I said, I start as tweens in like 7th grade, and we start talking about what they, what their days are going to look like, and slowly start to move into being more independent. And so I said, my daughter, who was a freshman, I gave her a list and was like, okay, here's your paper planner. It's your responsibility now to lay out your week, and you are responsible to get it done. And if it's not done at the end of the week, then well, then that's what you'll be doing over the weekend. And so that's how we kind of transitioned our kids from being, younger children to be moving into the tween years and starting to kind of talk to them about what their days were going to look like and how they were going to get everything done that they needed to get done. And then into a high school where, like I said, my goal was to have my high schooler be pretty independent as far, and owning her own schedule. And what needed to get done.
Well, I think that's key too, is just getting them to own their own stuff and their own schoolwork, and that's a process. And I think what Heidi said was perfect. I mean, you took what needed to be done and let her decide how she was going to lay that out for the week. And in fact, I think I'm going to use that idea. I'm a terrible planner when it comes to homeschool, like planning. We just kind of, we just all know this is what we do every day. I don't have a planner, but the kids each have their list, like Trish, with the chores included in it. So, and kind of in the order that it's supposed to happen. And and we also like to move them into that ownership aspect during those years, because I think it's not just about making our life a little easier, because it does help when they start to own it, but it's also about them growing in confidence, because as they learn to take what they need to do and be able to learn how to lay that out in a week, that's a life skill, and so they're going to have to do that the rest of their lives. And so why not let them start to have a little taste of that under our guidance, and under us being able to tell them, well, what do you think about doing this instead? Just a little bit of guidance along the way, but basically letting them feel like it's their deal. And I think that's huge in a huge part of their development. So yeah, I think that's great. I love those ideas.
Well, the thing is, if they don't learn to do it now and then you throw them out into the world, the likelihood that there's just suddenly going to be able to know how to manage their time is, right. Not that they won't learn how to do it, because, that's also the premise behind, a lot of unschooling too, is that, the things that you don't know, you know how to learn yourself.
Right. Right. But it could be hard.
but we all know, and I know I struggle as an adult, and I am very task-oriented, very list-oriented, and I still struggle to manage my time effectively. And, my husband's favorite saying is, if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority.
Right.
And so even teaching kids to learn what is more important, like what is really important today, what really needs to get done today. And if I don't get to everything on this list, what things are okay to let go for today or for this week or whatever it is. And we've done a lot more of that with my teenager, and getting back and talking about that stress as far as, how much is too much with curriculum and the stresses. And so that plays into our daily lives. Like Dorinda said, she doesn't have a physical planner, but they kind of have a flow to their days. We have a physical list. I print out an assignment sheet for work every week for my younger two, and now not for my older. And we also have a big whiteboard up in our upstairs hallway that is kind of in order. It starts with the morning routine and the things that they need to complete, and then they have chores, and I have little letter magnets, and I switch the chores each day for what everybody has to do. And if you want free time, then your chores need to be done. And we had this issue yesterday, and my son got to the end of the day, and we left, and we have sports activities in the evening, so we're out of the house all evening. And I said to him, you do realize that when you get home, you have vacuuming to do. And it's, well, I'm sorry, but you had all day, you didn't complete it. Before you can have your snack or have free time, you need to come home and do your chores. And so that's kind of how, how we work it. Like, if you want to have something, if you want to relax and have some free time, there are still things that, that need to get done.
That's exactly right. And we're also teaching them priorities, like we're teaching them how to know when they're getting stressed out, because they're learning what are their own personal red flags that say this is too much, and what to back off on. And we're conveying our values as far as like what's important and what isn't. So there's a lot that goes on just in that little area of planning. And you think about that compared to a public school classroom where everything is always laid out for you. You're always told what you're going to be doing, and versus our kids who are at home, and we're saying, okay, how are you going to handle this? What are you going to do with this? I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's just huge. The other thing I wanted to mention too was, Heidi was talking about consequences, and she cracks me up because I kind of tend to roll a little bit like her as far as like, okay, if you don't do it, these are going to be the consequences. But I don't always think about making a positive reward at the end, and like I said, before, it doesn't have to be Disneyland, pie in the sky, all that kind of stuff, but just some little thing that says, you can have this extra media time or whatever if maybe if there's extra things on the list or something, if you get through all those, then, this is going to be your reward at the end. And then also just teaching them at the end of just a normal day, that feeling of satisfaction, of accomplishment, that in itself is a reward. And our kids have to learn to appreciate that, because often in life that is our only reward. We're not having to pay the consequence for not having done it, but the only reward we're getting is a sense of satisfaction. And are we happy with that? Are we content with that? And that's something we can teach our kids.
Yeah, because we certainly don't have a cheering section behind us most of the time, right?
Exactly.
It'd be nice every once in a while, but I think that's something in the community. I think we're getting that. I think a lot of our homeschool moms, I think that's one of the reasons they love the community so much, is because they get that that pat on the back, especially the new ones. They're still so new, and they still feel like they need that acknowledgement that they're headed in the right direction.
Right. And that's so true. I mean, and I think, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't get a ton of that along the way. It was sort of like this it was completely trial and error and learning along the way. But, I think I learned a lot because of it. But it was hard some days not to have somebody saying, hey, you can, that's great. Just some little encouragement along the way that you can keep doing this. I think it's time for you to go.
With our kids, I recently read a book. I forget which one it was now because I've read a bunch. But with our kids, I started doing this little Post-it note thing. I actually bought little decorative Post-it notes, and throughout the day, I would write little notes on them. Maybe just once a day or once, not all the time, to the kids, and I'd leave them somewhere. Like if they'd done something, particularly like one of them decided to do the dishes all on their own, and I'd leave a little note at their seat or on their assignment sheet and say, I really appreciate that you thought to do the dishes, or if I gave a direction to something that I knew they wouldn't really want to do, but they did it without complaining, and I'd leave a little note. And I didn't necessarily realize it for sure if it was having an impact until I looked at my teenager's planner, and she had kept them all. She put them all like lined up on the inside of her of the a page of her planner. And so it was one of those little ways, like Jorinda just said, a little pat on the back, a little, hey, I recognize that you that you followed directions really well today, or I love the way you and your sister were able to play such and such and didn't argue, or and I found that the little Post-it notes have gone a long way. And you read parenting books and stuff, and they talk about you need to fill your kids up sometimes. You got to fill the tank up, and so kind of filling up that positive tank, not directly like overly praising for things, and like but those
genuine. It needs to be genuine.
Yeah, and when they're not expecting it, and just leaving a little note like, "Hey, I noticed you did this, and I really appreciate it." And and I think that it's gone a long way, and I've gotten away from it recently. And I have my little Post-it notes sitting here. I think I need to get back to it. It was, and like I said, my teenager saved everyone.
That's awesome.
I
So,
think that's, especially, we're in context, we're talking about, with the moms, that sometimes the moms
Right.
need the encouragement. But that's the
Absolutely.
point that the children also need it too.
mhm.
Right.
So that's a good point, Heidi. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And I wanted to say too, life is in homeschooling. It was several years ago I came to this realization that homeschooling is more about plotting, just doing the next thing and
Yep.
doing the next thing and doing the next thing than it is about these big leaps, because I'm sorry, but we just don't get the big leaps very often. It is hard work as far as just perseverance. And so pacing ourselves and having a place like the hip homeschool moms to come to get some encouragement along the way, because it is just doing the next thing. And sometimes you just feel like you can't even take the next step. You're just exhausted, and just takes one kind word, one word of encouragement from another mom saying, "Hey, you're doing a good job. Keep up the good work," or whatever.
Yeah.
I just think it means a lot, and this is just such a great place to find that.
I
And
know.
even
I
just to
love it.
hear other moms say, "Oh my gosh, I know how you're
Yeah,
feeling. Oh, it's the
exactly.
same for me." It's,
Validation is
yeah, just to
huge.
know that, like, okay, I'm not doing something wrong. My child
Right,
isn't totally, off their rocker.
right,
Just to know that it's like, okay, somebody else is experiencing this
right.
is even so great. It's just like, oh,
It is.
okay,
A
okay,
Just
relief.
not
that,
feeling.
so I am okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And I think feeling alone is just such a it's such a terrible place to be. So when you feel like you said, Heidi, you feel like, another mom is in the same position. It's like, oh, yay, okay, just that alone will keep you going. You know.
Well, we've always,
Absolutely.
I've said this the whole time, that everybody talks about socialization for the children, and it's really, our children don't need socialized, it's the mamas that need socializing. So that's the whole
True.
point of the group, was socializing mamas. So it's interesting. Our next two questions are almost the exact polar opposite of each other. So I'm going to ask one, and it just shows you how different all of us homeschool, right? So the first one is, how can we move out of the traditional school at home to a more fun experience? We've been using Abeka, and I want to go more along with the kids' interest. So they're looking for a less structured, almost more like, I guess, what you and Lisa do, Dorinda.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
probably a question for you.
Well, I think that I said earlier that we kind of figure out how we teach. We're figuring out our kids and how they learn, but we also need to find out what works for us as moms, because we are all very different, just like our kids are all very different. And for me, what I figured out over the years is this always just by trial and error ended up going back to this, and that was to I use curriculum for math and language, and not many curriculums, like one curriculum. I don't do this, that, and the other thing for math. Basically we did a math workbook. We've done a language workbook, and I have them do reading time, like maybe during a rest time in the afternoon, and we did handwriting. Okay, so that's always been kind of the main things that we have plotted through every day and used workbooks for. Everything else until like junior high, high school has been hands-on as they're interested. You know, Having books available, laying around on history and science, and whatever they're interested in. Maybe we'll pick up a science kit if one of them says, "Hey, I love bugs," or I see them collecting bugs. They're 8, 9, 10, or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I just," you can see them just bringing bugs into the house and really interested. Well, that's a great cue. Okay, let's get a little something that we can, maybe, pin these things to a board and whatever, and a lot of it they've done on their own, and it's been driven by their interests, which is always considered fun in their eyes. So that's just kind of how we've always done it, and so that's that's all I can share is my own experience.
I was going to
And
say,
so,
and Heidi also, she does the interest from a unit study perspective, which is very much follow the interest, but she pulls in the unit study. So will you share that, Heidi, how you bring in the unit studies?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that especially with my youngest, I've done a lot of that, and I always use my blog as a brain dump. So I inevitably have put out a whole bunch of unit study type posts, kind of resource posts, because my little one will get interested in something, like at the end of last year, like May-ish, her Girl Scout troop had used some of their money that they had earned to adopt a panda. And so she was very much interested in pandas. So we just went panda crazy. Read books, whether that be just storybooks about pandas, educational books about pandas. We watched videos. We found unit studies. We whatever. We find little activities to do, and I put them all together. And it becomes a unit study. And we'll spend sometimes weeks on one thing. I did one all about bees. We got interested in.
How did you pull them together? Because that's really what she's trying to figure out. How do you go there? Was that just a plain Google search with the word unit study in it? How did you find those? Because I mean, they would find you if they did that. So you could go find Heidi. It starts at 8.
I have some very specific things that I look for. For instance, I'll start at the library. Or at Amazon to then look at the library if I don't want to buy all the books, and look for books about whatever the subject is that we're interested in that time. And so then, I'll look at Amazon, I'll look at our local library, we'll go to the library and get books out. I always do some kind of a YouTube search. Like, we've watched videos like for the bees. We watched, video of a hive being created in fast motion where, and it's like,
Cool.
they've created it over a period of time.
Yeah.
We've that kind of thing. So, I'll do a YouTube search. Like we did I did a unit study together on Canada, and I found a bunch of these children-based videos about Canada, about various things about Canada, and I made a playlist so that I could open up the playlist for my daughter, and she had it up on her computer so she could watch them without me having to screen them because they'd already been screened. And so she had her YouTube playlist. So I will make YouTube playlists for a specific topic. So Amazon and the library for books. I always check YouTube for videos, always. And then she likes to do a lot of kind of hands-on, kind of making a lap book type things. I use Homeschool Share a lot. They're free. For lap booking. You're laughing, Dorinda. Is that too crazy?
I'm like, listen to you, go girl. Oh my word.
That's why I want her to feel that she can do
like,
some
whoa.
Well, this is how my brain is always reeling, and so Trish asked, well, what specifically? And so those are there's certain things that I do that in my mind I'm going, okay, I need to check here, I need to check here, I need to check here, and I will also just do a general Google search,
Okay,
for
so
something.
Heidi, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you just love doing this stuff? Because you seemed like you are just passionate about it.
I don't know. I just
because I'm not, and I'm like, wow.
Honestly, I think that the unit studies are probably the most fun academic type of thing that I deal with the kids. I think they're the most fun. And I am one of those people that get satisfaction just in the completion of something. So I like to see my finished product, even if nobody else appreciates it. I like to look at I like to look, like I said,
list.
I like to look at that list. I like to look at, like I said, I'll create unit studies and I'll put them on my blog. It really started for me. My blog started as a brain dump for me. It was a way for me to keep track of everything. And so
there is a lot in that brain.
Yeah, I know. when I'm pulling something together for Ava, for my little one, I'm pulling unit study together, it's like, well, it's just a great place to dump everything. And so then I just kind of pretty it up a little and take a couple pictures and put it out there and figure if I'm looking for something like that, that maybe somebody else is too. And, and so it's just an extension of, well, I did it, I put it all together, I may as well just put it out there. And so that's how I go through unit studies, and we've done a lot of them over the past 2 years, especially with my little one, because she gets on a whim. I mean, you name it, we've done it, from teeth to panda bears to bees, all kinds of, Canada.
I want to come to your school. Can I come and learn? Can I do some coloring pages?
I don't know if you'd want to come to my school as a high schooler. I think my teenager would beg to differ, but my little one, yes, she, it's all about the fun stuff for her. At least that's what's fun for her, and so
yeah.
She's
That's
so
just fascinating. I love it. It's so neat how every family, is structured differently, and the moms are different. And I just love listening to you and your passion for that. And for me, I have a passion for practicality, like everyday life, of taking stuff out of the garden and learning how to do new things with it, and having my kids do that with me, and it just pulling them into some of the stuff that I'm already doing and interested in, and it's amazing how they can just pick up so many things along the way. And but yeah, I just think I listen to you and I think, boy, I'm pretty simple-minded.
See, I don't think that's true at all. I look at the stuff with your gardening and the stuff you do with your food, and I'm like, I wish I could do that. I have this little tiny garden that didn't get planted this year, and there's years where we've done, we've grown the seeds in our window and we've taken them out, and we've planted them, and we've done, and I love the end product of that. But sometimes life has just gotten so busy for us. Like I said, and then it's not something that I was passionate about. And so I see people, I have friends that do a lot of canning of their stuff and that kind of, and I wish I could do that kind of stuff. And I'm sure I could if I really put my energy and my mind to it. I don't.
But it's not where your passion is. And I think that's the point of all this, is that, moms, you're created a certain way, and you can homeschool your kids in that bent, and they're going to be fine. That's my point of all this, is that I don't homeschool like Heidi does, but my kids are going to be fine, and her kids are going to do great. And so I think just appreciating those differences, and I think that's important for especially moms who are just starting out, to see us interacting. I love what you're doing and I appreciate it. I don't do it that way, but that doesn't mean you can't do it that way. And so in the end result is still going to be great kids who are going to be productive in life and successful, and they were taught very different things in very different ways, and that's okay.
And then
I think it helps you to learn that there isn't one way to, there isn't one means to an end, that we can, and so that you need to learn to be comfortable in your own skin and with what you're doing, and that, like you said, just because I'm doing something doesn't mean that it's right for you, and it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just, we all have to kind of get within our own skill set and run with it.
Yep, exactly.
The next question shows just how different. Here we have one question where somebody is saying, I want to unschool, essentially. I want to take out that structure and get away from the school at home model. And here's this next question. It says, why do we as homeschoolers feel guilty about having structure at home? It's the exact opposite. So it's really interesting, and what Dorinda said is so true. It's all about how it works for you, and I think that's something that so many of our moms, when they're first starting out, we've gotten to the point where if somebody challenged us when our kids are 6 years old, for instance, if they challenge us about how you change a diaper, or how you feed, or how long they have to sleep, or how they have to sleep, or where they have to sleep, boy, we're going to have an opinion, and we're going to come out pretty strong with how we did it. And this is, how dare you try to tell me how to do it? I've already done this, especially when you have 8 Hello? You know, it's like, you're going to tell me how to do it? Really? So you're going to get there with your homeschool. You're going to be that confident and that sure of yourself eventually with your style of homeschooling. And so as moms, you're going to have to start trusting your instinct and running with it. And
I
yes,
think
come into the community and share your thoughts or your questions or your concerns and say, hey, you know, this is what I'm doing. Does this sound okay? And everybody's going to have opinion, but there's going to be just as many people that agree with you. The other day, somebody came in and said, am I the only one that doesn't have a planner? And then everybody popped in and goes, no, I don't have a planner. We don't plan, you know.
Yep.
So, you know, it's constant where you're going to figure out that you can trust your instincts, and I think that's the key.
It is.
Just keep doing it until you feel that, and you're going to be trial, like we talked about earlier. Trial and error is going to be a huge part of this, and each kid's different. So once you figure it out for one, the other one's going to be a little bit different, and you're going to have to refigure it out.
Right.
And as if the people around you aren't enough stressor, then we get online and we see, you know, you get people's opinions, or you kind of get into this. I was, you know, another book I was reading, The Perfection Infection, and is part of this book that I was reading, No More Perfect Kids, and how we see people, especially online, putting, you know, they put out their photos and you get this idea of what you think things should look like. And just because that's what you think it looks like for them, number one, doesn't mean that's actually how it looks for, you know, it actually looks for them. And number two, that it has to look that way for you, you know. And I think we all get caught up in that feeling, like that approval feeling. Oh, we need approval from everyone. And you don't need approval from everyone.
Yeah. It's okay to feel it, though, you know, especially in the beginning. You know, they're so, you know, they just don't have that confidence yet, and they'll build it up. They'll build it up, but in the meantime, sometimes they do need validation. Did you see the picture of the lady that came in with her? She said this is like 10 days in, and she had drinks on the floor. It was such a great post. It was somebody had put a photograph in our group, and it was of real world, essentially. They're like, okay, everybody's posting their great pictures, and here's what it looks like 10 days in, and they had stuff everywhere. It looked like kids had exploded in the room.
That's great.
I loved it. So we do try to be real, you know. It is easy to, when you go on Facebook and see all these perfect environments, to think that that's how it always is, and it's not. You know, we all know reality is, you know, most of us had to clean to get that picture.
I think old-time homeschool moms and new ones alike, that we all just need to give ourselves a little bit of grace, you know, and know that, you know, that we love our children, we know them the best, we want what's best for them, and just to know that there isn't one right way to do something.
Well, and that is the common thread amongst all homeschool moms, is we love our kids and we want what's best for them, or we wouldn't be doing this. So
that's right. And we have to encourage each other and support each other in those decisions, and trust that mom knows her kids and her family the best, instead of trying to change them and trying to tell them why that's wrong. So, and that's something that in our group, if you haven't been in the community, that's something that we don't tolerate. We're pretty stringent in there. We are no drama mamas. We know how to use the delete button and are not afraid to use it. And we really do not have a whole lot of drama in there anymore. We did in the beginning, and I think that, you know, it's just part of it. I think we had to set the tone of what we were going to allow and not allow in the group, and now that the tone has been set, the group is fantastic. It's a really good support
and I've
group,
seen a lot of people saying how much they appreciate that. I just saw it in another thread last night that, you know, that they, you know, and I saw a thread and thought, oh, this is going to get a little nuts, but you know, people were kind, and you know, they stated their feelings, and you know, I saw at least one person saying that, you know, that's one of the reasons they love the group so much, is because that kind of behavior is not tolerated. That, you know, we all need to be supportive. We're all allowed to have our own opinions, but we do not get to push them and, you know, tell somebody else that they're wrong, or that, you know, we all need to be supportive of each other and where we are all at.
That's right. That's right. So, well, we're out of time, y'all. We're actually 4 minutes over. So we appreciate y'all being here. Thanks, Dorinda and Heidi. And Lisa, I'm sorry if you're out there watching. I know you had a rough day with your internet. I'm sorry. So thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to go visit them. Dorinda is at simplenourishinghome.com. and Heidi is at startsatate.com. And Lisa, who is not here but has been here off and on, is thepenningtonpoint.com. And I am, of course, Hip Homeschool Moms, and also my personal blog is Live and Learn Farm. So we appreciate y'all, and we'll be back next week, same time. And we're going to be having some brainstorms over the next few weeks, talking amongst us to see if there's some things we can do differently for mentoring moms. And if y'all have some ideas, please be sure to pop them into the group or on our Facebook page and let us know. So we'll talk to you soon. Have a great week, y'all. Bye.